So, as we all know, a couple days ago, Argentina played Venezuela in a World Cup qualifier match in which they won 3-0, 2 goals from the greatest of all time, Lionel Messi, and 1 goal from Lautaro Martinez. A great match from Argentina, but, it really didn't mean much for them considering they had already qualified to the World Cup. But the main talk of that match was that it was going to be Lionel Messi's last ever World Cup qualifier match, especially playing in Argentina where they played in Buenos Aires and the Monumental. And of course, before, after, during the match, there was so much emotions, the fans just cheering and praising Lionel Messi. And just as the emotions that he had before the game really showed you that, yeah, we're getting close to the end. We're getting close to the end of Lionel Messi's footballing story. He's getting closer and closer to hanging his boots, which is, very sad. It sucks because just following this guy's career and how much he just resembles the beautiful game, and obviously seeing his career and how of an incredible player he is, and someone that we'll never see ever again. Like, this guy, man, we all know what he is, what he's done throughout his career. Such an incredible player, and we're getting closer to the end, especially his words after the match where he had doubts that he'd even play in the next World Cup, that he possibly won't considering his age and everything. And after he won the 2022 World Cup, I was like, all right, it's done there, bro. You don't have to do anything else. You clearly don't have to prove anything else. Ended there. But considering the level he still plays at, considering, the player he is in general, he definitely still has a level to compete at the highest level and play this next World Cup. He can definitely play in next World Cup. And considering the team that Argentina have, a great squad with a lot of young talent and a lot of warriors that will fight for him on and off the pitch, as much as he'll fight for them, they definitely have the opportunity of going back to back. So if he plays the next World Cup, I'm expecting great things, but I wouldn't be upset, that he doesn't play the next World Cup. It'll be sad, but I wouldn't be totally upset. But again, just looking at the emotions through that match, it brings you like so much joy just watching that finally he's getting the love and appreciation from his countrymen that he hasn't got it in many years. Let's not forget, it just brings you back to the many years where he suffered, where he was basically tormented from the idea of not bringing success to Argentina, like constantly losing finals, constantly just getting knocked out of tournaments. When it came to the major trophies, he couldn't do it with Argentina, and a lot of people started to question that how could he be considered the GOAT if when it comes to international level he couldn't bring them success, especially in 2016 when Ronaldo won the Euros. The talks got even, they got even further. Like, Messi cannot be considered the GOAT if he can only do it at club level. He can't do it international level, especially in the big stage, which is the World Cup. He can't be considered the GOAT, which is ludicrous to me. I always thought he was the GOAT before he had any type of success in the international level. But when it comes to debating people, especially Ronaldo fans, they're always going to, if Messi had not won anything, they're going to mention the Euros, that Ronaldo was successful at international level while Messi wasn't. So, it was kind of necessary for him to do something with Argentina to really just put it like down and out that boom, like you can't chat no more. Messi is one international level. He's the best. He's the greatest of all time. But as we all know, outside noise is always going to happen. It's always going to happen, especially, for Messi when it comes to Ronaldo fans, when it comes to, any type of rival in terms of international level. They're always going to come at Messi for not being successful. But the ones that really put a dagger in his heart, that really broke his heart when it came from his own countrymen, when it came from his own people who constantly brought him down, who constantly attacked him because he couldn't bring Argentina success. Because one thing we must definitely understand is that, like, football is like a religion for Argentinians. What the channel is called right here, Fútbol es Vida. Fútbol es Vida in Argentina. They live and die for football when it comes to club level in Argentina, and especially when it comes to international level. Considering the success that Argentina has had in the past, they expect their team to always compete at the highest level, to always win the trophies, to always at least get to the final, to always be successful, especially in the grand stage. That is the World Cup. That is the minimum expectations from Argentinians because, of course, the success they've had in the past. Especially they'll go after Messi when he is compared to Diego Armando Maradona, who all the Argentinians consider him a god. They consider this guy a god, just another being who, of course, they love so much because of the success he's brought to Argentina, especially in the 1986 World Cup, where a lot of them say that he single-handedly brought them that World Cup, got them to that final and won them that game. In general, won them that whole tournament. He single-handedly did that. So, of course, they're going to consider this guy a god, and, of course, the amazing, incredible player that he was. And from a very young age, Lionel Messi got compared to this guy. Even Maradona himself saying that he is his successor, that he is the next guy up to take his place and bring success to Argentina. So from a very young age, Messi had that pressure on him to fight and bring Argentina glory, and that's been something he's been doing throughout his whole career to bring Argentina glory. And like again, it's been many ups and downs and many years of just suffering for Messi until, of course, the later stages of his career. I think it definitely started back in 2010 in the 2010 World Cup in South Africa, where they got eliminated to Germany in the quarterfinals. I know he played at international level before, but I'm talking about like where Messi was already considered a great player, especially in Barcelona. So I'm taking it that level first. So in 2010, of course, at that point Messi was already killing it in Europe. He was already considered one of the best players in the world in all time as well. And of course, they got eliminated to Germany, and they got destroyed to Germany in the quarterfinals, and Maradona himself was the manager at that point. And then the following year in 2011 in the Copa America in Argentina, they lost to Uruguay. And losing in your own country, you already know, like, it hurts. It's gonna hurt even more. They lost to the champions Uruguay in 2011. So, all right, another failure for Argentina. And then a couple years later to what could be considered the greatest World Cup of our generation, maybe of all time, the 2014 World Cup in Brazil, where Argentina, after decades, got to the final and, of course, had to play against Germany. The one game that I really remember from that match, from that tournament, was the game against Netherlands in the semifinals, where it was a dogfight. It was a dogfight. Netherlands had Robin and Argentina had Messi, so it was a dogfight. A lot of great players on both sides, and in the end, they had to find the result through a penalty shootout, in which Argentina won, and got to the final. And just looking at Messi's face when they won that penalty shootout, the emotions in his face, that he's like one step closer to bring in the ultimate prize to Argentina. But we all know what happened in the final. They went up against a very, very strong Germany side, one of the greatest Germany sides we've seen ever. And, one substitution with Mario Götze coming in for Miroslav Klose. And boom, that's when the fate was sealed for Germany to win that World Cup. A goal from Mario Götze, and they ended up winning 1-0. Heartbreaking. Very, very heartbreaking. I remember that game. I remember watching that game. I was actually in Peru when I watched that game, and I remember that day, for some reason, my family wanted to go to the zoo, when I was kind of upset because I was like, we're going to the zoo in the World Cup final? What are we doing here? And we ended up going to the zoo, and my grandpa and I just, got away from them and went to this little dome where they were playing the game. And I remember watching the game there, and when Götze scored that goal, I was like, damn. 90 minutes away from Messi just completing football at age 27, like, and it ended up like that, of course. What I definitely remember from that game was towards the end of the match, I think it was like the final kick of the match, Argentina had a free kick, Messi took it, the last chance for Argentina to do something in that game to potentially make a comeback, and Messi skied it. He skied it, and I was like, wow, it's done. Yeah, that just defined that, okay, it's done. There's no chance. It's not going to be Messi's World Cup. And yeah, Germany ended up being the victors. And of course, Messi won the golden ball of that competition, but it means jack shit. It means jack shit if you can't win the ultimate prize, right? But then the following year, in the Copa America in 2015 in Chile. Actually, hold on. I just got a little thought right here. 2014. If he had won in the World Cup in 2014, and then the following year won the treble with Barcelona, oh my god. Oh my god, bro! Like the debate, they would have like the debate between Messi and Ronaldo fans. Oh my god, it would have been another level. Like Messi, like they couldn't. There was nothing Ronaldo could have done to chat Messi at that point. Like wow, he really could have completed everything by the age of 27, 28, whatever age he was at that point. But yeah, that's fate. That's fate. The footballing gods had a different fate for Messi, of course, later in his career, what we saw. But the following year, 2015, in Chile, the Copa America in Chile, where Argentina played Chile in the final. Again, another dogfight against what people say is the best Chile side of all time, the best generation of Chile of all time. And they got to the final, another penalty shootout. Messi scores his, but his teammates fail him. And Chile win it with an Alexis Sanchez Panenka, and Chile become victorious. Two finals in a row lost for Lionel Messi and Argentina. And then the following year, the 2016 Copa America in the United States of America. Another final. The rivals go back to back. Another final, Chile and Argentina, where another penalty shootout and Argentina lose. Arturo Vidal, I remember Arturo Vidal misses his. Then Messi steps up and skies it. Oh my god, bro. That was heartbreaking. I was like this is it, Messi. You're gonna win your first international trophy, and it went to shit. And then Messi just crying after that. Like you just saw the emotions, you just saw everything, and then I'm like, wow, bro, is this really fate? Are the footballing gods just never going to bless this guy, give this guy a break, and just give him some happiness for him and his country? Because like, come on, bro, like he had 3 finals in a row, 3 finals in a row, bro. Like we all saw how the Argentinians killed him after that, bro. They killed him, and of course that hurts him because as much as of course the criticism and the hate brought towards him hurts him, is because he's also Argentinian, so he also understands and loves the game as much as any other Argentinian. So it hurts. It hurts that he wasn't able to win that game, and of course his family has to suffer as much as well. Heartbreaking, like so heartbreaking. And then we saw sometime later Messi decided to retire from the international level, where he basically said in an interview that it just wasn't meant to be. He was done and he had to go. He was done. Like I guess you could say he gave up. But of course he does come back on time for the next the next games for Argentina, so that can never be used in a debate. He did come back, so he didn't miss a game. So he goes back, and then the next major tournament was the 2018 World Cup, where that had to be the worst Argentina side I've ever seen. Like it was diabolical how that Argentina side played, and of course the players that they had. Like it was such an awful team. And I remember that qualifiers, Argentina just barely qualified for the 2018 World Cup, where Messi scored a hat trick against Ecuador to get Argentina into the World Cup. It was an emotional game as well. I remember that World Cup qualifier for sure, because I remember Peru, after many decades as well, qualified to the World Cup as well. But he brought that team to the World Cup, and if it wasn't evident enough how bad they were in the qualifiers, just imagine in that World Cup as well, where they were terrible. They were terrible in the group stages, barely getting out of it as well. They tied to Iceland, I think it was, and then they lost to Croatia, got destroyed to Croatia, the finalist, and then I think it was against Nigeria, if I'm not mistaken. I forgot who they played, really. I'm sorry for my memory. And Messi, gets them the win, and just barely gets them through to the next round, where they went up against another finalist with France, and another dogfight, another great game, a 4-3 victory to France, and another World Cup elimination for Lionel Messi. And you're just wondering, Messi, what is happening here, bro? Well, it's just not like you said, it was probably just not meant to be. It was probably not meant to be. But the following year, 2019 Copa America, another elimination. Argentina lose to Brazil in the semi-finals, and they ended up third place. Yay! But that doesn't mean jack shit, of course. And then fate finally had something set up for Messi in the international level, and it definitely started with Scaloni coming into the international team, coming into Argentina, where he made some changes and, of course, knew that if Argentina wanted any type of success, he had to build a great team around Lionel Messi. Because as much as Messi has carried Argentina for many, many years, at the end of the day, it comes down to the team around you. 100% it comes down to the team around you. Of course, a player can definitely carry, but there are limits. There are definitely limits, and Messi has hit its limits for many, many years with Argentina, where the squad just wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough. They didn't, back him like we've seen him get backed these last couple of years with this Argentinian side who just love Messi. And I think it definitely comes down to also the fact that it was a young squad and a lot of those players grew up watching and idolizing Messi, and of course seeing him, fail and, not bringing success to Argentina. So them getting to that international level and getting the chance to play with Messi and, helping him reach glory, I think that definitely was a significant factor for this Argentinian side to reach success these last couple of years. Having a team that will fight and die for you, especially with a lot of these players having immense talent as well. And Scaloni was the guy who really set that up for Argentina. And then that leads us to the 2021 Copa America in Brazil, where Argentina gets to the final, Messi being a key figure. What a incredible tournament he had. And that final with Brazil. From an early goal from Angel Di Maria, Argentina win. I remember Messi in that game also had, an opportunity to seal the game off, and he just fell and messed it up. Neymar, what a... My God, bro. Of course, that match, for a fact, I was cheering for Messi. I was cheering for Argentina to win that match. And every time Neymar touched that ball, I was shook. I was like, please, Neymar, don't do this to your boy, bro. Don't do this to your boy, bro. He's been suffering for years. Stop it. Please, don't do it. Your country won the last Copa America. You weren't part of it, but still, stop. Let him enjoy this moment, please. Neymar was destroying Argentina, just playing... obviously, he wanted to win, and he was cooking, but thankfully, they didn't do it. Dibu Martinez definitely stepped up in that game as well, because he made many crucial saves. But, yeah, Neymar, what a game he had. But, thankfully, at the end of the day, fate had sealed for Messi to finally win his first international trophy. They won the game 1-0, and, yeah, the happiness on the footballing world's faces, because, obviously... many years of suffering, many years of torment for Messi, and finally he reached the glory that he's been wanting his whole life, his whole career, basically. The emotions that ran down his face as well when they won that game as well, got to his knees and just started crying. And, of course, finally bringing that glory to Argentina. And, of course, bringing that Copa America to Argentina, watching the whole country finally praise him and give him happiness, it was such an incredible sight to see. Finally, that fairy tale ending that Messi's been wanting for Argentina in his international career. But it was not over. Because then that leads us to the 2022 World Cup, Qatar 2022, where eyes were set for Argentina to win that tournament. They were definitely one of the favorites because of their unbeaten streak leading to the tournament, and of course the great football that they were playing. Obviously the Finalissima also encouraging it even more when they beat the European champions of Italy. And Messi just playing incredible football as well. The great side that they had, the young squad that they had. Again, the players that would die and fight for Messi, they were definitely favorites for that tournament. The group stages was they had to play Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Poland. First game, it was at 5 a.m. 5 a.m. where I'm living. Eastern time, 5 a.m. I woke up for the match to watch Argentina lose. Oh my. I was like, no, he's not going to get knocked out group stages. There's no way. Argentina lose that match 2-1. Messi scores, but yeah, Saudi Arabia scores some bangers in that match. I was like, no way. There is no way Messi's about to get knocked out. He's not going to get grouped, is he? There's just no way. There's no way. No way. He's the GOAT. He wouldn't allow it. But yeah, they lose their first match. And again, you already know what happens. You know how reactionary the footballing world is. They immediately start attacking the guy. They immediately start attacking him. And then that leads us to the next match against Mexico, which was obviously a very important match. That if Argentina didn't win that, it's done. It's over. They're getting knocked out of the tournament, and they obviously had to win that match. And who steps up? Lionel Messi. He breaks the tie. A great goal from Messi, and then he gets the assist for Enzo Fernandez's goal as well, which was a banger as well. Argentina are safe. They beat Mexico, who Mexicans consider that a rivalry. I don't know why, but yeah, it was definitely an intense match for sure. And then they played against Poland, where Messi doesn't have a goal contribution, but he still had an incredible match. Like he was incredible in that match. Then quarterfinals, they play Australia or New Zealand. I forgot. I think it was Australia. They win. Messi, another great goal. Then quarterfinals, an incredible match against Netherlands. A fierce match considering the words that were said by Van Gaal and the goalkeeper before the match. Talking shit, and of course that got to the Argentinians, where we all saw the brawls that they had, the fights that they had, where Argentina 2-0 up. That pass from Messi just redefines physics. What a great pass from Messi to bring them up 1-0, and then they get the second goal from penalty from Messi. Getting close to the end, it was game over. It was done, and then I don't know. Netherlands just made the comeback of dreams, and then we get to another penalty shootout, which I couldn't watch. I couldn't watch that penalty shootout. I was shook. I was so shook to watch during that penalty shootout. But thankfully, Argentina got through. Diego Martinez really showed that he is a great penalty goalkeeper. And then semifinals against Croatia, where they destroyed them. Argentina, again, Messi stepping up. And, of course, then we leads us to the World Cup final against France, where another magnificent match. The greatest final ever. What a match. Probably the greatest game ever. Argentina 2-0 up in the first half, in dominating, destroying France. France make the comeback around the 70th minute. Mbappe wakes up, scores a penalty, scores a banger in this for his second goal, and then scores another penalty after Argentina get the third goal from Messi as well. Penalty shootout, and then destiny was sealed for Messi to win that game and that tournament. Messi lifts the ultimate prize with the World Cup. Wow. And you of course, you know what that meant. You know what that meant for Argentinians. You know exactly what that meant for Argentinians and what it meant for him, his family, and obviously everyone that loves Messi. I'm Peruvian, but I felt like an Argentinian in that game because I was emotional, because finally Messi got the ultimate prize, something he's been fighting for his whole career, and yeah. Beautiful story. Again, there's always going to be talks, how many people say, penalties, they won it through penalties, they won it through controversies, corruption, blah, 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 blah. But let's get one thing straight here. Games aren't won, tournaments aren't won based on just moments, just that penalty kick or that one goal, that goal. Watch the whole 90 minutes, please. Watch the whole 90 minutes of every one of those games that Messi played for Argentina, where he captained them. Watch every one of those games, and you'll understand that Messi did not have to rely on penalties to win that tournament. Did not have to rely on penalties to be considered the best player of that tournament, because he was genuinely incredible that whole tournament. I'm telling you right now, with chest, Argentina are not winning that tournament without Messi. They're not winning that game in the final without Messi. Because not only was he a great player, but he was a leader. He was a leader. Because all these players for Argentina, they follow him. They follow the main man. They follow his leadership. They follow his mentality. Let's not forget that one clip in the final. I'm going to try to find it. I really couldn't find it, but I remember seeing this one clip where Messi, where France scored the third goal, or I think it was the second goal, to make the comeback, and then Messi was going to throw himself to his knees, but he stood right up. He's like, no, I'm not letting myself get to my knees, because as much as he knows he still has fight in him to try and win this game, he knows that he can't let his teammates see that, because that means if they see him defeated as the leader, they'll be defeated as well. GOAT mentality. And then, of course, then we saw what happened in the 2024 World Cup, the Copa America, where they also won another trophy for Messi's. Obviously Messi didn't have the greatest contribution in that tournament. He wasn't the best, but again, that leadership the love that Argentinians have for him, the players that they have, they have the love for Messi, getting to that final and winning that game without Messi playing the whole game just showed that, of course, Messi's leadership, his passion, his love for Argentina and trying to win trophies for Argentina is both on and off the pitch, and they won that game from him. But yeah, Messi's career with Argentina, what a story! Genuinely, what a beautiful story. Hopefully it's not the end. Hopefully I would like to see him play the next World Cup, but I will also understand that if he decides not to. But the main takeaway from Messi's story, the Messi's Argentinian international story is obviously never give up. Just never give up. If you have a goal, fight for it. Always fight for it, because again, how many people it would have just mentally killed. Like, the mental part is definitely the toughest part. The toughest part, when you have all this fame and all this love from around the world, and then it quickly turns into hate and torment because you aren't able to do what you need to do to bring success to the country that you obviously love. Losing 3 finals in a row. How many players it would have just killed and dismotivated them. They would have never returned to the national team. They would have never fought. And it took many, many years later for him to finally bring success to Argentina. Many, many years later, after losing 3 finals in a row. GOAT mentality. So if anyone still wants to have arguments of who is the GOAT, talk to yourselves, because clearly Messi's career in both club and international level just shows that this guy, he's something else. He's genuinely something else. Main story for Messi's international career: never, ever give up.